Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode 77 of the Canberra Football Show. Round 5 review. Joining me, as always, is Michael Georgeski. Michael, how's it going today?
Good, thanks, Matt. Hope you're doing well as well. Obviously, we've got some action to break down and dissect and talk about. Obviously, plenty of action, plenty of goals, plenty of good results as well, and some cracking games too, as we would have expected when we were talking about these fixtures that just finished up in our last episode. So keen to get into it and talk football as always.
Indeed. And this week, unfortunately, in NPLW, we still had two postponed matches, but CPL and NPL, we have a full slate of matches to cover. And Michael, I believe you have the first one.
I do, Matt. And it was a game that had huge stakes for either one of these teams to really get their season kick-started. And it was Tuggeranong United who came away with the victory away from home against West Canberra Wanderers. Rufagalis on the score sheet for West Canberra. And for Tuggeranong United, it was Walker and Hislop on the score sheet. Like I mentioned, Matt, a huge clash for these two teams in terms of where they are on the table at the moment and going into this one seeking their first victories for the season. So there was plenty on the line and a really good opportunity for either side to get 3 points. So in this contest, we had sort of Sam Walker being denied in the first 10 minutes of a goal through offside, but just over the 20-minute mark, so just a tad bit over 10 minutes later, he managed to stay onside for the next phase and finished with a bullet header into the goal. It was a fantastic cross, and all he had to do was get his head on it to score basically into somewhat of an empty net. It was a fantastic header to give his side and Tuggeranong the lead in this match, but West Canberra did a fantastic job of regrouping and they got themselves back in the game at just 3 minutes later, and it was brilliantly worked from their own half of the pitch all the way through to the final third after Rufagalis was put through brilliantly, bearing down on goal, beat the keeper. There was a bit of a tug of his arm as well before he put the ball in the back of the net. So potentially, if he wasn't to score that, referee could have potentially pulled that back for a penalty. But nevertheless, they made it 1-1 in the match after 24 minutes. So already a cracking start to this game, Matt. And, you could sense that both sides, really wanted to get that first win of the season. And I think that was sort of showcased as the match went on. You've got two goals that were scored in the first 24 minutes. And then it was a really tight and close affair between both of these teams. But a stroke of genius from Tuggeranong coach, I should say, Mitch Stevens, saw substitute Hislop get his head on a ball that was played over the top towards him in behind the defence to seal a dramatic late win for Tuggeranong United in this game. And obviously they get their first 3 points of the season. They left it late. I'm sure that's not what they would have wanted to do, heading into this one, leaving it late to get the victory. But nevertheless, you take 3 points where you can get them. And in this case, they get their first victory of the season. That's going to give them a lot of confidence, their first win back in NPL football since being promoted from CPL last season. So you've got to imagine that the confidence and the overall morale in the group will breathe a sigh of relief after this result, Matt. And for West Canberra Wanderers, this one's going to be a tough one to swallow, especially considering the fact that they had done so well to get themselves back into the game so quickly after going 1-0 down. And, when you concede a late goal like that, considering the circumstances that they find themselves in, where they still are seeking their first victory for the season, it's got to hurt most definitely. But like we always say, these teams can't hang their heads too low. You've got to take it one match at a time, put this match behind you and concentrate on the next game and get 3 points and build yourself up and make your way up the ladder. So a fantastic game that was on display there at Melrose. Matt, who do we have next up? A cracking clash between two teams that are in form this season.
Yeah, not only in form, but this was a top of the table clash, wasn't it? Heading into this one. And it was Tigers that got on the score sheet first through Emilio Kishta, 14 minutes into the contest. Kishta followed up from a rebound of Nick Tedeschi's shot that was first time. People sort of signaling that it went past. Tigers were trying to say that it went past in the back of the net, but once the rebound came off, Emilio Kishta made sure to put that in the back of the net, so Tigers took the lead. It was Popovic, a man in form, that leveled the scoring for Olympic 8 minutes later as he received the ball from a quick free kick, beat his marker and charged in the box and was able to release a shot just before about 2 or 3 Tigers defenders swarmed in to try and get the ball off him and obviously put it in the back of the net. In the 39th minute, Olympic took the lead as Alan James intercepted the ball and released it to Eli Darwich. Eli did a nice little flick around his marker and ran around his marker as well before squaring it for Popovic, who was able to score his brace. And as I said, put Olympic in the lead 2-1. And 3 minutes before the end of the first stanza, Nick Popovic scored once again to make a 3-1 for his side. A long free kick was launched over the top of play. The Tigers defender came up short with a pass across goal, which Popovic raced onto and unleashed it past the keeper for his hat-trick, giving Olympic sort of a monumental advantage heading into that half-time. That was it in terms of the goals, though, in this one. Popovic is now the equal leading top goal scorer along with 5 goals alongside his teammate Luca Flores, Gungalin's Max Green, and Tigers' Josh Galevsky. Tigers now trail Olympic in second place by 3 points with the match in hand. Of course, we need to mention they're also tied with Monaro. However, they lead on goal difference. Canberra Olympic, as I mentioned throughout this sort of review, stormed to another victory, placing them at the top of the table. And as I mentioned, the Tigers still have that match to catch up on, though. This is now 4 wins and 5 for Paolo McCaw's side. They have the best goal difference of the comp with +11. They've scored the most goals with 15 and have conceded the least with 14. So overall, if you're an Olympic supporter, you couldn't really ask for much of a better start from Olympic, but maybe bar from being undefeated. It's just been such a great start for the season. This sort of tips it off for them to begin with, winning this top of the table clash. So Olympic very much in the thick of things, Michael, as we just pass round 5.
That's right, Matt. A great contest, a huge win for Canberra Olympic away from home, and well done to Nick Popovic for scoring a first half hat-trick. Very difficult to do in this league, so well done to him and to Olympic. But nevertheless, we'll move on to our next game, Matt. What an absolute cracker this one was. 3-3 between O'Connor Knights and Gungahlin United. In this one, for O'Connor Knights on the score sheet, Driscoll, Pierrick Cullen, and Adams. It was an own goal from Pierrick Cullen of Gungahlin United. We then had Max Green on the score sheet twice for Gungahlin United, the visiting team, and Jack Green, the other Green, scoring in the second half with Gungahlin United's third goal in the contest. Like I said, what a great game this was between both teams. A great counter-attacking goal from Gungahlin United to open the scoring after a superb pass from George Timotheo, picked out Max Green sort of towards the back post, took a brilliant touch and finished into the roof of the net to make it 1-0 to Gungahlin United. They almost doubled their advantage before the 20-minute mark, but they were denied by the crossbar, yet as a result of yet another fantastic pass from Timotheo. That would ultimately come back to bite Gunners as O'Connor got themselves level thanks to a great header from Driscoll in front of goal to make it 1-1. The Knights, however, would shoot themselves in the foot by giving away a spot kick, Matt, 2 minutes before the break, which Green converted to make 2-1 at halftime. A great half of football, and we were, that was only going to continue into the second period. The Knights, they came out really strong in the second half, Matt, and for the second time in the match, they got themselves level after a great piece of individual skill resulted in an own goal from Cullen. So that made it 2-2. The second time that O'Connor Knights made back up the deficit that they had got themselves into to get themselves level. And then the Knights would continue that momentum after finding the equaliser for the second goal to grab the first lead of the game through Michael Adams, who took the ball off the goalkeeper's feet to make it 3-2. So the keeper had the ball at his feet. He was sort of dwelling on it a little bit, and then Michael Adams made sure he paid by snatching the ball off him and putting the ball into the back of the net to make it 3-2 to O'Connor Knights. But that wasn't all the drama, Matt. And it was Jack Green this time in the Gunners outfit who produced an outrageous goal. I mean, this was not what you would expect of a centre half, that's for sure. It was more a striker's finish. It was very creative. Sort of had the ball on the angle there on the top of the box and managed to chip the ball beyond the goalkeeper over his head into the far corner. And it's 3-3. That's how the game ends. It ends in a draw. And what a spectacular match of football this one was. It had absolutely everything. It had drama, it had goals, and, the spectators there and the neutrals watching on at O'Connor there would have been absolutely delighted to what they were able to witness that day, because there was a lot of great football being played, goals scored, so you can't complain too much. Matt, what's our last match for NPL?
Yeah, what a fantastic encounter you just broke down there. And it's not the first time we've seen Jack Green, the captain, pop up with a massive goal for his side. So, like you said, everyone that was at O'Connor there was introduced to an absolute spectacle of football. And once again, just sort of shows how competitive this NPL comp is. And talking about competitive matches, we had probably sort of the epitome of a competitive match here. This one looked like it was going to be a stalemate, 0-0. But in saying that, though, I was at this encounter, caught a decent amount of it, and it was so close in this one. There were a decent amount of chances for both sides, and a good amount of chances indeed. And both keepers stood up really big in this one. Jordan Thurtell, from memory, had a number of great saves, as did his counterpart, Sam Brown. Honestly, top-notch goals, and it was really going to take something sort of special or out of the ordinary to beat either keeper here. And as I said, it seemed like it was heading to a competitive stalemate here at 0-0 very, very late on in the game. Jordan Thurtell took a free kick from right, literally just before halfway. It was one of those ones where I was just like, last minute, get everyone up, let's see what we can do. And he put in an absolute bullet of a free kick, and it dropped right for Rocco Stricker, who was able to head it first time past Sam Brown into the back of the net. And yeah, very late drama. And Monaro stated on their Facebook page that they got revenge in this one. I'm assuming that's referring to being knocked out of the cup by Canberra, Croatia a couple of weeks back. Monaro, with this win, launched themselves into second place, tied with Tigers, as I mentioned before, but they trail on goal difference. And as I mentioned also before, Tigers do have that match. In hand. Canberra, Croatia find themselves with 1 win in 4 matches and in 6th place. It is worth mentioning, though, that Canberra, Croatia as well do have a match in hand, and they're only like a win off fifth. They're only like a win off 5th place, 4 points off the top 4. It is a bit weird 5 rounds in saying Canberra, Croatia in 6th place. However, as I mentioned, it's such a competitive comp. They're only really a win off being back in that, and they do have that match in hand. So depending when that is, that could be sooner rather than later if they're able to get a victory in that one. Michael, as I mentioned, very competitive comp, and that continues into round 6, where we have, I'm sure, a few of these matches will be very, very competitive as well.
Absolutely, Matt. First up, we have West Canberra Wanderers at home again, playing hosts, this time to O'Connor Knights, Saturday, 13th of May, 2 p.m. at Melrose Synthetic. You follow that up with Canberra Olympic up against Monaro Panthers. That's going to be a cracking game. Saturday, May 13th, 3 p.m. at O'Connor Enclosed. We've then got Gungahlin United up against Canberra Croatia. Sunday, May 14th, 3 p.m. at AIS, Grassfield 2. And last but not least, Tuggeranong United back home against Tigers FC, Sunday, May 14th, 3 p.m. at Canberra 201. So we've got the 2 games on the Saturday, 2 games on the Sunday. So a perfect balance split between all those fixtures. So you can get out to either one of those games or both, either one of those games on Saturday, and you can do the same for the Sunday kickoffs as well. Matt, let's move into NPLW action, where we had Canberra United Academy up against Canberra Olympic.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Canberra Olympic 3-0 victory over Canberra United Academy. Jalocka, Whittle, and Thornton scoring these ones. I'll break it all down here. Olympic did open the scoring with an absolute corker of a goal in the 33rd minute. Jalocka picked up the ball well outside the box and unleashed an absolute bullet of a shot, which dipped just under the crossbar and over the keeper's head. Really nice goal there from Nicole Jalocka. Olympic intercepted the ball for the second in midfield, and the play ended with Olivia Gurney's run. They had a defender trying to win the ball back, and sort of that rebound off the defender trying to win that ball. Had Maddie Whittle pounce on the ball and was one-on-one with the keeper and didn't waste a chance and placed it in the back of the net to make it 2-0 for Olympic, heading into halftime, giving them a good advantage. As I mentioned, heading into that interval, despite CUA trying to push back into this one, it was Olympic who would hit the back of the net in the second half. Gurney once again with a great cross, well out wide, huge ball into the box, with the ball sort of hitting off the CUA defender and none other than Michaela Thornton, who did not waste her opportunity at all to put her side 3-0 into this one. Huge win for Canberra Olympic, as they are now 1 point behind Canberra Croatia, and they're also tied in second place with Belco, but they're just trailing Belco on goal difference. However, the reason why it is also a big win is because Canberra Croatia, as you're about to mention, Michael, did drop 2 points on the weekend. So Olympic and Belco have a chance with their matches in hand to surpass Canberra Croatia, which once again, as we mentioned before, such a competitive comp when there's literally 1 point separating the top 3 was so early on, sort of shows that we're going to have such a great week-to-week tit-for-tat title race. And in terms of CUA, on the other hand, they're in 5th place with 6 points. However, they're only 1 point off that top 4. So it's not all doom and gloom for them. They also have a match in hand. So once again, not just the top of the table is really competitive this season. And as I mentioned before, only 2 matches in this one due to some matches being postponed. And the last match of our NPLW offering was another absolute cracker, wasn't it, Michael? In a rainy Deakin Stadium.
It was, Matt. It really, really was. Tough conditions for the girls out in this match. Canberra Croatia versus Gungahlin United, 2-2 in this one. A double for Palombi, a double for Pennyfield, as the shares were spoiled. In this one, a cracking encounter, despite the very, very tumultuous weather, Matt. But the first half, proved to be very, very tight, as either side couldn't break the other one down. And that was sort of highlighted by the fact that it was 0-0 going into the break. But the second half would see 4 goals produced. So we start things off with a great cutback from Barach saw Palombi give Canberra, Croatia the lead in this one, and she showed her brilliance in front of goal, as she has proved so many times in this competition, to score the first goal of the match 5 minutes after the restart. She would then score her second goal 5 minutes later after sneaking around the back of the defender to finish at the near post to make it 2-0 in what was a great start for Canberra, Croatia in the second period. But credit to Andrew Woodham's team in the second half, Matt, after going 2-0 down. They didn't throw in the towel, and their efforts to get back into the game were justly rewarded when Pennyfield capped off a scrap fest, to say the least, in the box before Pennyfield scored into the goal to make it 2-1 and reduce the deficit. She would then pop up again 6 minutes later to make it 2-2, as she proved to be the hero in this case for her team to get her side level and, obviously set up a fantastic sort of last 12 minutes in that game, but neither side could go on and get the win, which I think goes to show just how tight this game was, how closely contested it was. Two teams that are playing very, very well this season, especially Gungahlin United after the season that they had last year. They're really playing well, and you can see that the confidence is starting to come back in that playing group after not playing particularly well in the 2022, not the 2002, that's a long time ago, 2022 season. So we talked about it in the preview for the start of the season. We're expecting a bit of a bounce back year for Gungahlin United, and they managed to get a tough point away from home against Canberra, Croatia after being 2-0 down as well. So there's plenty of positives to take out of that for them. Matt, what are our NPLW round 6 fixtures, and what fixtures were postponed in this past weekend for NPLW?
Yeah, and before I get into that, I should probably mention as well as also rainy conditions for the Olympic and the CUA 1 over at Hawker Football Centre. But the two matches that were postponed, ANU WFC against West Canberra Wanderers and Tuggeranong United against Belconnen United. All right, the round 6 fixtures, as we mentioned, Belconnen United against Canberra United Academy, Saturday, May 13th, 3 p.m. at McKellar Park. Canberra, Croatia against ANU WFC, Sunday, May 14th, 2:30 p.m. at Deakin Stadium. Canberra Olympic face West Canberra Wanderers, Sunday, May 14th, 2:30 p.m. at O'Connor Enclosed. And to round off the action, Gungahlin United against Tuggeranong United, Sunday, May 14th, 3 p.m. at Gungahlin Enclosed. That leads us into our last league to review this week. Full slate of matches once again for the CPL. Michael, who do we have first up? And some absolutely cracking fixtures here.
Yeah, to say the least, Matt. Some absolutely fantastic games that went on in CPL this past weekend. So we kick things off with Canberra White Eagles up against ANU, a prolific CPL fixture as it's proved to be over many, many years. And it was 2-2. It ended in this one. Lamashane and Kreskis on the score sheet for White Eagles, and Hope and Lopez scored for ANU in this contest. Canberra White Eagles kicked off the scoring in the 6th minute, Matt, so they got off to a very, very good start via Roshan Lamashane. So that's exactly the sort of start that White Eagles would have hoped for coming into this game, and they got exactly what they wanted, only just 6 minutes in. So building on that sort of confidence of a great early start. But unfortunately for them, ANU bounced back brilliantly and had an answer to that goal 3 minutes later via Nick Hope to make it 1-1. Already 2 goals in the space of the first 10 minutes. So you just knew this one was going to be action-packed for the fans and the neutrals watching on. And before you knew it, Tim Lopez gave the visitors the lead in what was a tightly contested match in the 25th minute to make it 2-1 to ANU. White Eagles weren't prepared to give up without a fight, though, and they fought back for a goal late with 5 minutes to spare as Kreskis equalised and made it 2-2 to get White Eagles a valuable point when you look at it, considering they were down 2-1 with 5 minutes to go. So it could prove to be a huge point maybe later on in the season. The point means that White Eagles dropped to 7th place, though, just 1 point behind Wagga and 2 behind Brindis and ANU. ANU, sort of speaking on them now, despite the draw, they still remain in the top 4, tied with Brindis on 7 points, in which they actually played the Colwell base side this week. So that should be an absolute cracker, and we'll get that into more sort of detail about the where and when we dissect the fixtures for this upcoming weekend. So that should be an absolutely fantastic match. Matt, we had one cracker that I just broke down with Canberra White Eagles and ANU, and that didn't stop in the next game, did it?
No, it didn't. This was another top of the table clash. So in this one, I was lucky enough to catch the second half of this encounter. Queanbeyan City against Belconnen United. And as I said, at the time, it was a top of the table clash. Nico Abbott and Christian Juna with the goals for Queanbeyan City, and McCarran and Tunney with the goals for Belconnen United. Very tight encounter from all accounts at High Street in that first half. It was a really good atmosphere in Queanbeyan, and that's just the first match that these two will be playing. There's obviously 2 more matches for every side sort of against each other in this comp. And if these two are there or thereabouts at the end of the season, we're going to see even better atmosphere with more people there. It was Belconnen to open the scoring in the 56th minute of play in this one, as David McCarran ran on the end of an absolutely great sliced ball over the top of the defense. And once he grabbed it, unleashed a bullet past the keeper. Queanbeyan leveled, though, in the scoring through Nico Abbott as he converted a chance from the penalty spot. When it seemed, this sort of reminded me a little bit of the Tigers Croatia game, where when it seemed like the match was over at 1-1, Belconnen took the lead in the 94th minute as the Queanbeyan defender lost the ball deep in his half. I believe it was to Robbie Catnack, won the ball and squared it across the goal for Hayden Tunney to complete play and put it in the back of the net to give his side a 2-1 lead. And once again, when it seemed like play was over and the match was over at 2-1 to Belconnen, Queanbeyan came up big with a late goal to make it 2-2 less than a minute later. Christian Juna completed his home side's press down the pitch and placed it in the back of the net to steal an all-important point. Like I said, great atmosphere at this one, back and forth game. Both sides had their moments in this game. Both sides probably would be annoyed to sort of give up full points, but as I said before, this is going to be a tit-for-tat, week-by-week race. And as I mentioned, they're not the only ones that are looking, as I'll mention soon, they're not the only ones that are looking to get themselves there. Belconnen United now find themselves in 3rd place as Yoogali leapfrogged them by 1 point with their win at home, like we'll mention later in the program. Queanbeyan City, on the other hand, remain at the top of the table, top of the CPL standings, with a 2-point lead over Yoogali and a 3-point lead over their opponents, Belconnen United. Both sides probably, Belconnen probably a little more annoyed, I would say, at the draw, just considering where they are on the standings. But again, they're only a win away, and Queanbeyan will be annoyed to sort of let that lead slip. To sort of go down to Belconnen twice, but they were able to come back twice and score those goals. So, as you know, with a long season, not every match or result is going to come pretty, so you need to come back from those, and that's what Queanbeyan were able to do here. And as they did last week as well when they were down a man. So Queanbeyan are showing that they can come back from these, from conceding no matter the circumstances. So, as I mentioned there, Michael, we are going to have one hell of a race, and we're only 5 rounds in.
You're absolutely right, Matt. It's going to come down to the absolute wire, I think, this season in CPL. Next up, we have Brindabella Blues up against Canberra Juventus. It was 2-1 in this game to the Brindabella Blues. Ward and Wilkes, on the score sheet there. And for Gungahlin Juventus, it was Duck. So the Blues opened the scoring in this encounter with about 35 minutes played. Juventus tried playing the ball out of their half. Brindis took the ball and there was sort of a neat little dink through ball for Jamie Ward to run onto the end of, and was able to beat the keeper and place it into the back of the net. So a very nice goal to give Brindabella the opening goal and the lead in this contest. Brindis doubled their lead a minute before halftime, so a crucial goal to the Brindis in this one at a very, very good time. Not so much for Canberra. Juventus, a massive long ball from a free kick into the box resulted in a scramble, and the keeper couldn't get his hands on it. Henry Wilkes had a touch or two and ended it with a little chip over the mess, and it trickled in. So 2-0 to Brindis heading in at halftime, just exactly what Ray Jr. would have wanted heading into the halftime break. Juventus were the ones to score in the second half, and the only goal in the second half in this contest when they halved the deficit with nearly 20 minutes to go. You know, they won the ball and Nathan Duck ran onto it and placed it past the keeper into the near post for his third goal of the season. So he's having a good season for Canberra Juventus, and they'll hope that his individual form will continue for the rest of the campaign. But obviously it proved to not be enough as they came away with nothing, and Brindabella picked up a valuable win. So what this means for the table is this is Brindy's second victory in a row, and they've launched themselves into tied fourth with ANU on 7 points. However, ANU do have that lead on goal difference. On the flip side of that, you have Juventus still remain last with 3 points. However, if they can pick up just a victory, they'll be straight back into the mix as they're only 2 points off 7th and 3 off 6th. So it just goes to show just how tight this competition is and how a victory can honestly change so much for a team. So we're going to see how everything sort of unfolds over the next few weeks when this ladder starts to take shape. But this is a good opportunity for teams to really get some points and build some momentum to stake their claim in the top 4, or better yet, try and get promotion. And Matt, who do we have last up in our CPL fixtures?
Last up in CPL is a huge win for Yoogali, 5-2 over their Riverina Derby opponents, Wagga City Wanderers. Huge victory for them. The first, and one thing I want to say as well is, if you're free when the Yoogali game's on, look on their Facebook page. They've got the live stream, live feed going there. I think they've got a bit from the footage I was able to see. When I was doing my write-up for this, they also have a bit of commentary as well over it. So go check out Yoogali's football page. So all their games in Griffith are live streamed. Definitely go check it out. Some good work there from Yoogali to be able to see this action. And they opened the scoring 13 minutes into this contest as Darren Bailey made a run down his left wing, nipped a nice little through ball around the defender for Priest to run onto, and Priest beat his marker and placed it past the keeper, who came out to try and stop it. Player coach Darren Bailey doubled the lead for the home side 16 minutes later as Mason Donald did a huge switch of play to Darren Bailey across the field, who proceeded to unleash an absolute bullet into the top left corner. That was an absolutely great goal there from Bailey. Wagga City Wanderers half the deficit, though, in the 38th minute as Jake Plonges played a neat ball over the top of the Yoogali defense as Tyler Allen ran onto it, and he proceeded to unleash another bullet into the top left corner. So we've seen already 2-1 into this one. 38 minutes gone, we've seen some absolutely terrific goals. Yoogali opened so as halftime went, it was 2-1. Yoogali opened the scoring though in the second half, 16 minutes in, as Ruben Donadell's effort hit the crossbar and Josh DeRossi was on hand to follow up the rebound to make it 3-1. 14 minutes later, Wagga City Wanderers weren't going to give in without a fight, though, as they scored again to make the score 3-2. Nashwan Suleiman was the man to score the goal as he lobbed the ball over the top of the keeper for the far post. 5 minutes later, Darren Bailey took a massive free kick for the far post to find Samuel Riccitti, who headed it into the back of the net at the near post. 4-2 for Yoogali at this point. Yoogali rounded off the scoring 6 minutes from full time to make it 5-2. Josh DeRossi and Isaac Donadell had some very neat, nice back and forth interplay as they went down the pitch, and it ended with DeRossi rounding the ball around the keeper for his brace of the match. Tough loss for Wagga. They kept fighting back, as I mentioned in this one, though. However, Yoogali were just too strong and came out the victors in this one. Wagga sit in 6th place, only 1 point off the top 4, though. As I mentioned, fantastic victory for Yoogali. They've now made it 3 wins from 3 at home, they really are solidifying Solomon Stadium as a fortress this campaign. No better way for them to start their home form either, with 3 straight wins. And they now find themselves in 2nd place, as I mentioned before, with 9 points, 1 point above the team they defeated last week in Belconnen. So, for now anyway, after the first of 3 rounds in the Riverina Derby this season, the Riverina currently is yellow. Michael, who do we have in our round 6 CPL fixtures?
Yeah, so first up, we've got Wagga City Wanderers up against Queanbeyan City, Saturday, May 13th, 2:15 p.m. at Gissing Oval. We then have Brindabella Blues up against ANU FC. That should be a great game. Saturday, May 13th, 3 p.m. at Ipen Park there in Corwell, as we mentioned briefly earlier in this episode. That should be a great game. We've then got Belconnen United up against Canberra White Eagles, Saturday, May 13th, 3 p.m. at AIS Grassfield 2. We then have, and lastly, Canberra Juventus up against Yoogali, Saturday, May 13th, 3 p.m. at Ainsley Field 2. So we've got some great games there, Matt. It's very tight at the moment in CPL, so we'll wait and see what happens this weekend to see what the table will look like, but I can assure you that there'll probably be some positional changes in and around there.
Yeah, try and get out to one of these matches if you can. CPL is always great offerings of football around the capital, so definitely try and get out if you can. Michael, any last words before we sign off for today?
No, I mean, I'm really looking forward to, obviously, a lot of these games across the 3 different competitions, and definitely looking forward to, sort of like I said just there with the CPL action, really seeing how the table will look after this round, because on a round by round basis, and like we touched on earlier, a victory really does a lot for a team, and it can change a lot in terms of where they find themselves one week and where they can find themselves the next if they manage to just get a victory. So you can expect a lot of positional changes across all 3 of the different competitions. And I mean, that's always going to happen when great teams are coming up against each other, and there's a lot to play for, even though it's so early on in the season. Every team's trying to build up some consistency, and I can't wait to break it all down.
Yeah, and like you said there, with some other teams trying to some of the bigger teams in some comps trying to find their feet in terms of results. If you're not one of the more favored teams, like you said, now is the time to sort of try and get as many points as you can, even though it is early on in the season. It could make a difference near the end. And over our couple of years of doing this, we've mentioned a few times how getting points early can be very, very crucial to either side of the table, whether you're fighting for the title or making the top 4 or fighting for relegation or fighting for promotion. We've seen how, big certain results can be, and sometimes it comes early on in the season. So the fact that we're breaking it down like this so early sort of shows that we're in for a great campaign. And apologies if we said it's so competitive so many times on this show, but this week I think really showed it this week.
Yeah, that's the theme of the episode this week.
Really competitive. That's the theme.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. It certainly is. Anyway, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Next week, episode 78, where we'll be here to break down all the league action. So everybody enjoy your weekend, and more importantly, enjoy the football.